Welcome to the Walmart Broadcasting Candidate Forum ahead of the June primary elections. I'm Dawn Morgan, the News and Public Affairs Director for Walmart Broadcasting in Hobbs, and we acknowledge our behind-the-scenes technical guru, TJ Miracle, and we also acknowledge all of our candidates who are taking part, and we welcome you in to watch this event. We are going to have our representatives from New Mexico Legislative District 61, Randall Pettigrew, New Mexico Representative District 62, Larry Scott, the gentlemen who are seated first. And then we will have our Lea County Commission candidates for District 2, Gary Schubert and Brad Weber. And they will come in and take the place of Mr. Pettigrew and Mr. Scott when we are done with their segment. So we hope that you will watch and enjoy the entire event this evening. I will tell you that we did invite all of the candidates in the races that are opposed on the Republican ballot for the June primary. And these are the representatives who chose to be here, who thought it was important to be at this event and to represent themselves in person. And I would like to thank them. And I would also like to mention that when we invited candidate Jill Jones, that she declined to be a part of this, said that she preferred to go door knocking for her campaign and be home with her family. We also invited Elaine Sena Cortez, and she stated that she had a work-related conflict and could not attend. We also invited Glenn Biswell from the County Commission District 2 race, and Mr. Biswell had a surgery and a medical procedure yesterday in the hospital that had been scheduled for a long time, that he sadly, said that he would have to miss this event. He actually would have liked to be here. So we want to make those explanations to you when you're wondering why all of the candidates in the races with opposition are not represented. But we would like to say again, thank you. Thanks to all the candidates who are here, and we extend a big thank you to the Hobbs Boys and Girls Club. And that's where we are in the big room here at the club, and we say thank you to Mike Clampett, the executive director, and his very helpful staff for the use of this facility, and we invite you to support the Hobbs and Boys and Girls Club if you don't already support this very fine facility and its staff, and of course the children, the members here. So without further ado, welcome in. I will say thank you for being here. Randy Pettigrew, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dawn, and thank you for doing this tonight. And
thank you, Larry Scott. We appreciate your attendance here tonight.
Good evening, Dawn. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, and thank you. In the audience, waiting to take their chairs when it's appropriate, we have Gary Schubert. Thank you very much, Mr. Schubert. And we have Brad Weber. Thank you very much, Mr. Weber. All right, let's get on with it. We have a format scheduled. For first, we will, since we don't have the opposition, we've invited Mr. Pettigrew, Mr. Scott, Representative Pettigrew and Representative Scott to go ahead and answer questions, to present their plea, I guess, to voters directly for votes in the upcoming June primaries. So we will start with New Mexico Representative Randy Pettigrew. Thank you very much. And if you would explain who you are and why you still want this job.
Thank you, Dawn, for the question. I think the first thing I need to say is who I am is I'm a Christian. And to give you a little bit of information about me, my family ties go back into this county to 1907 from the Prairie View and from the King area. And I'm used to turning around to talk to people. Born in Lovington, raised in McDonald, through a couple of moves, ended up graduating from Clovis High School. And from there, I went to New Mexico State, got my degree in civil engineering. I've worked from the East Coast to the West Coast. I've moved back to Lea County 3 times, and I'm pretty sure this is my last one. So with respect to that, I have a beautiful wife, Shannon, and 3 great, awesome girls, Brittany, Rain, and Allie. Brittany still lives in Lea County. Rain's a special ed teacher in Las Cruces, and Allie's just fresh out of the military. I would like to say that why I still want the job is because I don't feel like I'm done. We have so much very important work to do up there, and it takes a knowledge of the oil and gas industry. It takes a knowledge of the public works system, transportation, to be able to do that, and I bring that to the table. I feel like the state of New Mexico has gone cattywampus with respect to how we run a budget, and we've got to get back to a conservative fiscal budget, and that's the reason why I want to continue to do this, is because my work's not done. Thank you.
All right, sir. You have another minute or so to respond if you have anything you'd like to add.
I'm good.
You're good. All right. And Representative Scott, you have the same 3 minutes and the same question. Explain who you are and why you still want to do this job.
Thank you very much, Dawn. I am Larry Scott. I'm running for my 5th term in New Mexico House District 62. By education, I'm an electrical engineer. By profession, I've spent actually a lifetime in the oil and gas business, almost exclusively in Lea and Eddy counties in New Mexico. Now, why do I want to keep this job? The state depends on the petroleum industry for 40% of its revenue. It provides employment in the southeast part of the state and the northwest for over 100,000 jobs. And in spite of this, there are very few legislators in Santa Fe that actually know or understand the industry, and many are actually fearful. The environmental community is currently driving the policy bus in Santa Fe. Someone needs to be there to push back against the initiatives that are coming from our Democratic progressive colleagues. Legislation introduced just this past session included the Clean Futures Act and a constitutional amendment to make the state responsible for a clean and healthy environment. The Clean Futures Act was so vigorously opposed by the petroleum industry that they actually took the unprecedented step of taking out advertising in the Albuquerque market standing in opposition. They labeled it the No Future Act. The constitutional amendment, I would label, I think it would be very appropriately called the Environmental Trial Attorney Full Employment Act. These concepts in this piece of legislation were so vague that they just invited litigation. I want to go back to push back against some of these anti-Southeast New Mexico initiatives.
All right. Thank you, sir. And as you might have guessed and you have seen, I'm holding a timer, and we have pre-planned how much time in response the candidates will have to the various questions. And I will keep the time, and if you run out of time at the end of the 3 minutes or 2 minutes or 1 minute, whatever is allotted, I will ring the bell gently, and I encourage you to go ahead and finish your thoughts. Mr. Weber and Mr. Schubert, this applies when you get up here as well. Go ahead, finish your sentence, finish your thought, and then wrap up. So far
we've managed to avoid the bell.
So far.
I feel like we're at Rotary.
You may not need the bell at all. But thank you very much. So we are off and running, and we will move down to the second item for each. Mr. Pettigrew, Mr. Scott, Representatives Pettigrew and Scott. Since the single biggest issue, if you'll name the single biggest issue for New Mexico or for your district, and explain why it is the single biggest issue in your opinion, and you'll have 3 minutes each to do that. We'll start with Representative Pettigrew.
Thank you, Don, for the question. This one to me is very straightforward. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham and the progressive left are our single biggest issue in the state of New Mexico. Everybody knows what what's going on and the pushback that we get. To be crystal clear, last November in Houston, Texas, in a meeting that she had with a multitude of our biggest producers in the Permian Basin, she told those companies that if she had a magic light switch, on-off switch, she would turn oil and gas in New Mexico off that day. As was alluded to and discussed just a minute ago by Representative Scott, we have our state revenue is dependent upon oil and gas. It pays for almost 92% of K through 12 education. When we start looking at the state of New Mexico, we have lithium, we have uranium, we have coal, we have oil, we have gas, plenty of sun, plenty of wind, as we all have seen in the last several months. We have all of those things. New Mexico should be one of the wealthiest states in the Union, not the poorest state in the Union. And the reason why we're here right now in this position is because of the progressive left and their desire to get rid of oil and gas. Now let's talk about what New Mexico does with respect to oil and gas. Depending on the white paper that you read, we are somewhere between 30 to 40% more environmentally friendly with our production on oil and gas than any country in the world. That's here, that's Lea County, that's who we are. Why would we get rid of our oil and gas production and then turn around and buy oil and gas from Russia, Venezuela, pick a country? When, if we're doing this from an environmental standpoint, this is where we need to be doing it. We should be leading the charge. We have the mental capability in this state. We have Los Alamos Labs. We have Sandia Labs. We have the capability. We have the mental assets. We have the assets below ground. We should be running the most profitable state in the Union. They are doing everything they can to destroy that and to put their thumb on the residents in New Mexico. They are wanting to create a caste society to where you're living off of what they feel you need to live off of while they continue to live like kings. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we'll go to Representative Scott. Same question. If you'll tell us what you think the single biggest issue for New Mexico or for your district is and why, and you've got 3 minutes, sir.
Dawn, I couldn't do it. I couldn't boil it down to one issue. I have two, if you'll allow me.
Certainly.
The first one is short term. Parochially, what we have to do is fix the damage that was done to Hobbs by our destination sourcing that was effected in 2019 in House Bill 6. This legislation is costing the city millions of dollars annually. And that's in gross receipts tax revenue. Now, I voted against this on the House floor, perhaps for the wrong reasons, but I voted against it because it was a $500 million tax increase. Nonetheless, it was an attempt by the legislature to capture internet sales taxes and the Hobbs GRT reduction as a consequence of moving taxes to the destination of the delivery of the service was a completely unintended consequence. That's something that we need to fix. Hopefully, with legislation in the interim that we can introduce in the next 60-day session. Now, longer term, it is the current public policy of this state to be carbon neutral by the year 2050. This policy will have a devastating effect, not only on our local community, but the state. Sunsetting hydrocarbon production without any substitute in sight for a replacement for that revenue or the jobs that the industry provides is just nuts. Our goals for economic development should not be in lieu of hydrocarbon production. Those goals should be in addition to. And this is one of the biggest fights that moderates and conservatives will face in years to come. Thank you.
All right, sir. All right, let's move down. I'd like to ask you each, and just to make clear for anyone just now joining this broadcast, this is not a debate between Representatives Pettigrew and Scott. They are not opposing each other. They are running in their race for re-election. They are the incumbents, and their opponents chose not to be here. So we are simply going back and forth and letting them answer the questions and present their information to you. Let's pick up, and I'd like to ask each of you what your best accomplishment or accomplishments are in office so far. We'll start off with Representative Pettigrew. And we have 2 minutes to
Thank you,
answer
Dawn.
this one.
So in 2019, when I decided to run for this office, I did the one thing that hardly ever happens in a household. I got several text messages one morning that said, "Hey, it looks like you're going to run," and this all had to do with somebody else's ad about running for Senate. And so I sat there and I prayed and I read my Bible, and then when Shannon came into the living room that morning, I did the one thing that most men don't do, and that's sit down, honey, we got to talk. So we talked about that. And so as we prepped and we started going through this, what were my issues? What we do to our senior citizens, what we do to our veterans, the attacks that we had in 2019 and 2018 legislation that with the red flag law on guns, our attacks on our constitutional rights have been really prevalent. So those were my commitments. On top of that, when I was out knocking doors in 2019, what we learned was that most people had no clue what a state representative does. And so I made the other commitment that I would be completely transparent. And with that, every bill that I voted on the House floor of substance, I wrote 1 to 3 paragraph article about that House bill. And I published it, and I put it out there for as many ways as I could for everybody to do that. And so that was important to me because I want people to know what my votes are. I want people to know what my stand is. We're not going to agree on everything all the time, but it's important that people know what I am doing up there. So when we talk about Social Security, I co-sponsored the bill in 2021 and then again this year that would have repealed the Social Security personal income tax, the personal income tax on Social Security. While those bills died, it did make itself into the budget. So that was a win-win for us. It didn't go all the way, but it's a start. The same thing on our veterans our military retirement. We tried to retract all of that through legislation. We didn't make it, but in the budget we were able to get the first 10,000 this year, 20,000 in the next year, and 30,000 the next year. So we have 3 years to continue to work on this to where that non-taxable income is going to happen, or that income is not going to be taxed. We need to increase it all the way 100%.
All right. And I'll give you an extra minute. That's okay. You were rolling. We'll give Representative Scott an extra minute on his if you need that, sir. It's up to you. Thank you, Mr. Pettigrew. All right, Representative Scott, best accomplishment or accomplishments while in office so far?
Just this last 30-day session, we defeated in debate on the House floor in a 30-30 tie vote the clean fuel standard. This proposal, had it passed, been enacted into law when fully implemented, would increase taxes on gasoline and New Mexico consumers by 75 cents per gallon. We were able to make the case that this was effectively an environmental gasoline tax. And the concept, oddly enough, I spent Wednesday, just this past Wednesday, in Artesia at Legislative Finance Committee meeting where an expert consultant had been charged with developing the consequences of a clean fuel standard on New Mexico consumers. His numbers were virtually identical to the numbers that we developed during debate on the House floor. And subsequent to his presentation, a number of my Democratic colleagues expressed strong reservations about the effect of this policy on New Mexico consumers, and it appears to me, at least for the time being, that we have convinced enough legislators that this is bad policy that it will not be resurrected in our next legislative session.
All right, thank you. And let's move on and ask you what your biggest regret so far in office has been. So we've heard the biggest accomplishment, things that you're most proud of. Let's ask about something that you might regret so far in your term in office. We'll start with you, Representative Pettigrew, and you've got a minute, please.
Thank you. I'm going to start this with acknowledging the fact that at least in this part of the state, we still believe in God. And that's important because up there, that belief is gone. When you walk into that roundhouse, we may say a prayer on every morning on the House floor, but trust me, they've lost it. And so my biggest regret was out of the 2021 session where we were unable to stop the progressive left's movement on abortion up to birth and the assisted suicide. Those are two of my biggest regrets, that we were unable to stop that. The other thing, just from being a representative, when I have a constituent call and the bureaucracy gets so deep that I actually can't help my constituent out, that's a regret of mine. And I don't know if a regret's the right word. It's a frustration for sure. So those are the big ones for me, the 2021 session and the fact that our bureaucracy is so big that it's almost impossible to get some things done. Thank you, Don.
All right, thank you. And Representative Scott, the same question. Your biggest regret or regrets so far in your terms in office?
Don, many people listening to this broadcast may not know that moderates and conservatives are in a significant minority in the House of Representatives. That representation is 45 Democrats, 24 Republicans, and 1 independent. Being in such a minority position, my biggest regret is that I have not been able to drive public policy in a direction that I believe would benefit the state. And that includes energy, tax, workforce, and education. These very simply, conservative positions on these issues do not move forward as a consequence of that progressive majority. Conservatives could do better. So far, we haven't had the chance.
All right, thank you, sir. And let's move on. Pick one position on an issue or a statement that your opponent has made and explain why you believe that it's wrong. 3 minutes, and we'll start with you, Representative Pettigrew.
Thank you, Don. What a fun question. And so, actually, I could go there, but what I want to focus on is what my job is. My job as a state representative is to be here. You called and asked. The question is very simple. Will you do that? Of course. That's actually what I signed up to do. Represent my constituents, talk to my constituents, be there, be a voice, and be able to take whatever hard questions a constituent may ask me. And so the fact that what's nerve-wracking to me is that I have an opponent out there that I guess thinks that she gets to pick and choose what her job is when she takes this, if she was successful to win this. So my 30,000 plus constituents are actually my employer. We don't get paid a whole lot, but from that standpoint, but I love what I do. I love going out and I love talking to my constituents and learning what's out there, what's important to them. I don't have the opportunity of when I choose to show up to work and when I don't. As far as I'm concerned, when a constituent calls, it's my job to call them back. If I have the opportunity to talk to a group of people where they get to ask me questions, like is what's happening tonight, that's my role. That's what I signed up for. So my question to everybody else is, why would we continue down this road? Why? I wish she was here. I really wish she was here. I wish my opponent was answering these same questions. I want our constituents, my constituents, to know what I want to know what her answers are. Because it's, at the end of the day, yes, she may be an opponent of mine, but she's also a constituent. And so tonight's not a newspaper ad where you can just fling misinformation out there. Tonight is where you get the opportunity to actually face your opponent. And I wish she was here. So, like I said, I could pick a whole bunch of different things that I could talk about, but with respect to that, that's the one issue. We don't get to choose when we show up. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, same question for Representative Scott. If you'll pick a position on an issue or a statement your opponent has made and explain why you believe it's wrong.
My opponent, I believe, has overestimated the influence that she will command in the legislature as a freshman representative. In my 8 years in office, I have developed a reputation for thoughtful debate, and so far, the technical analyses that I've provided to my caucus, particularly on energy issues, have yet to be challenged. There is a strong need in Santa Fe for an advocate with the deep background and experience that I bring to the position. My opponent believes that her outreach efforts will serve to bring progressive Democrats over to more moderate positions. Let us sit down, reach across the table over a cup of coffee or a cocktail. We'll manage to make a difference. This is misguided and it is naive. My progressive colleagues believe in and are committed to their agenda. And they're not going to give it up without a fight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. And finally, we have a 1-minute direct appeal for each of you to explain why you are the best Republican for the job. And just kind of summarize, and this will be your last statement to voters in this event. So we'll start with Representative Pettigrew.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for the question. From a overall standpoint, what I bring to the table is preparedness. I focus, I sit, I read, I do my homework, and I know what the issues are when we come out there. Am I 100% right, and do I get it right 100% of the time? No, I don't. But I am prepared. I have managed businesses with over 1,500 employees, over $100 million in budget. I've taken brand new concepts on businesses, greenfielded them, built them, and sold them. Born and raised on a farm, live in a boardroom now. I'm comfortable with all areas of it, and I work in the oil field, so I'm very comfortable with that. One of the things I will say about me that is very clear, I am not an insider. I'm not there. It's not about me. I'm not there to self-promote me. I'm not a kingmaker. I'm not there to make somebody else look good either. People talk about leadership. I'm a servant. I have a servant mentality. I go up there to serve. I'm there for you. And I would challenge that anybody ever has a question about one of my votes. My number is 505-379-6607. It's the same number my wife calls me on. Give me a call. Let's have a good discussion. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Pettigrew. And now you, Representative Scott, a direct appeal. Why are you the best Republican for the job?
I believe that I have, over the years, become a trusted member of the House leadership team. A leadership team that has proven, at least in the last few years, to be very effective. If the Republicans do manage to take the majority in the House of Representatives, I will be the next chairman of House Energy and able to drive public policy. If we don't take the majority, I'll be the ranking minority member. The expertise and experience that I bring to this job very simply cannot be duplicated by my opponent. Thank you, Don.
All right.
And
Thank you.
thank you for having us.
Well, you're very welcome. We're happy to do this. Thank you very much. So we'll let Representative Pettigrew and Representative Scott step away, and we'll go ahead and keep this live for just a minute or so and let Gary Schubert and Brad Weber come in. They'll have a seat at the table, and we'll begin with that portion of the evening. Thank you very much. And we hope that you continue to watch and listen. And remind you again that this event is coming to you live from the Hobbs Boys and Girls Club. And we thank Executive Director Mike Clampett and his staff for allowing us to be here to use the room and the facility. and we thank you for watching and listening. This is a candidate forum brought to you by Walmart Broadcasting. I'm Dawn Morgan, the News and Public Affairs Director, and our technical director tonight behind the camera is TJ Miracle. So thank you very much. All right, welcome, and thank you very much, Mr. Schubert and Mr. Weber. We appreciate your being here this evening, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, Don, thanks for having us. I'm glad to be here.
Very glad that you're here. And again, we'll mention that Glenn Biswell, the third candidate in this three-man race for County Commission District 2, had a surgery that had been preset, and he had surgery, a surgical procedure in hospital yesterday. He regretted that he was not going to be able to be here, but we do understand. But we are very happy to have candidates Schubert and Weber here. So again, we will continue with a similar format with similar questions and give you guys a chance to talk and answer, and then we'll give you a chance to ask each other a question and respond. So let's start off with this. We'll start off with Gary Schubert. Explain to us a little bit about who you are and why you want this job, sir.
Well, thanks again. Gary Schubert. I moved to Hobbs in 1977 to Lea County, the day after I graduated from Texas A&M University. Had a job in the oil field here for an electrical contractor. Did that for several years and decided to go into business for myself in 1980 in general construction. I'm married to Marcia for in another couple months, 42 years. We've raised 4 children here. Went to school in Hobbs. All those children went to school here in Hobbs and participated in junior rodeo, all types of sports, soccer, dance, recitals, baseball, you name it. My vocation is general construction and real estate development, and through that, I get to meet a lot of people that think about moving to Lea County. Sometimes when someone wants to possibly open a business here or something, we get connected with them, and I get acquainted with them. And so I see and tout what Lea County has to offer for people to move here. And so that brings me to the point, pardon me, why do I want this job? And the reason is sitting right over there next to Mr. Scott, my daughter Amy. I convinced Amy and her husband to move here 10 years ago and join the family business. Amy's a nurse and Ben is working for me, and they have 3 boys. And so it's very important to me that their family is able to live in a very good place. And so my passion is to see to it that Lea County is the best place that we can make it for young people to grow up in and people to raise their families. I want to see Lea County prosper, and I have some ideas on how to do that. I'll talk about that in the next segment, but that's why I want the job. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Schubert. And we'll turn to candidate Brad Weber. Again, explain to us who you are and why you want the job, sir.
Well, my name is Brad Weber, and I moved to Hobbs in about 1980. Came here, looking for work. Everything I owned tied to a little motorcycle, and immediately found a job. Work was plentiful back then. And immediately fell in love with the people around here. I was never, a lot of people took me under their wing, helped me out, helped me get established. Of course, got married and we had some kids. I lost my first wife to cancer, but those are still my kids, and I've remarried, and anyway, me and Shelley, we've raised our kids here, and they're very involved in 4-H and FFA and county events. They both live here still, and of course married and have children, and so got our grandkids getting up in 4-H and FFA now. But I guess the main point is I love this county. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people here, and I've always pretty much been self-employed all my life. Had a construction company as well, and of course now I own a towing company, Lea County Roadside, and that business has been good to me, and we've been able to give a lot back to the county. And it's I've developed that heart to serve. God has put that in me, and I feel very strongly about it, and I like giving back. I feel like I have a lot to offer this county, and I look forward to maybe working in that position. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Weber. And we'll move on and ask candidate Schubert what the single biggest issue for the county or district is, in your view, and why. And we'll have 3 minutes for each of you to answer that. So we'll start with candidate Schubert.
Okay, thank you. In my mind, the single biggest issue facing Lea County is how can we provide a good quality of life for our citizens. And as I said a few minutes ago, I want to see Lea County prosper. I want to see the county grow. I want to see the tax base grow and things like that. So to do that, we've got to offer good jobs, and we've got to offer the people that are going to fill those jobs to a place to live. And so this quality of life that I mentioned entails many things. It entails affordable housing. It entails quality medical facilities. It entails retail establishments so that people can enjoy shopping. They can enjoy entertainment, going out to nice restaurants and things like that. And all of those things are the building blocks that are required for us to have a high quality of life here. And I think I have the ability and the knowledge to work on those things. I think the county can get involved and help incentivize some things like that. For example, there are some housing initiatives in place currently by the city of Hobbs, and I would like to see some of those initiatives expanded and the county participate in some of those in all 5 of the municipalities in our county. And by doing that, if we could incentivize affordable housing, we've conquered some of the parts of this quality of life issue. We've also built the tax base, and it's a source of tax revenue income for the county. Property tax revenue is the second biggest part of the income for the county, and so I think an investment there would reap dividends. A $300,000 house that's constructed in Lea County would return to Lea County somewhere between $700 and $1,000 a year in property tax revenue. So some sort of investment like that by the county is a housing incentive to see that more housing is done would actually pay us dividends back. And those funds are recession proof. There's the oil and gas business could turn down, but that piece of property is still there, and even if it's repossessed by a finance company, the taxes are still paid. So it's I think some looking at that by the county would be a good thing, and I think if they would work with the Economic Development Corporation towards an end like that, that's one of my parts of the quality of life. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Candidate Brad Weber, tell us what you think the single biggest issue for the county or for your district is, and why.
Well, I think the single biggest thing has got to be that the state and our nation is in full attack on American oil and gas. And oil and gas is what drives Lea County, and it also drives our state. The gas industry provides good paying jobs. Everything around here is dependent on oil and gas. The restaurants, I mean, that's just the source in which everything goes back to. And you know, the groceries we eat, the furniture we buy, you know, even getting a haircut, the source of that funds comes from oil and gas. And the taxes on that oil and gas provides support public safety, and it supports our infrastructure, and it all has to start there. And so I think the most important thing is the push back on that state level, and look forward to working with our representatives and pushing that back, and seeing if we can get this turned back around to where we're, you know, because we are a prosperous county, and we don't want our state to drive us to brokenness. So I think that's first and foremost.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Weber. We will move down the list and would like for you each to tell us the one thing you most want to accomplish in office if you're elected. And we will start with candidate Schubert. Sir.
Thank you. As some of you know, I served as county commissioner from 2003 to 2011. When I was there, we accomplished several large, one especially large economic development project, which was the landing of the Uranco facility here. And the way we did that is that all the entities in Lea County pulled together. All the municipalities, the county, the civic organizations, the EDC, all of those people hung together as a team, put egos aside, and tried to accomplish the common goal, which was an economic development jewel, and we won that. That would be my biggest concern or accomplishment as a county commissioner, is to see to it that we all the entities again worked as a team. Not that we haven't, but there's always room for improvement. And I would like to see all of the entities and participate in helping all the entities pull together for common goals.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Schubert. All right. Same question to candidate Brad Weber. What's the one thing that you most want to accomplish if you were elected and put into office, sir?
You know, and there's so many different factors in running the county, and I think one of the biggest items I think of is the focus on public safety, and I want to help ensure that everybody, we have a safe community to live in, and you know, good roads to drive on, and you know, I look forward to working closely with our sheriff and our current SO, and that in what we can do. I mean, the state has made this such a catch and release situation that I know we can come up with some solutions that will reduce the crime and the theft, and make this a safer place to be. It is, you know, a very, very important thing. Nobody wants to come here if it's not safe. So I believe that that'd be the one thing I'd really like to get accomplished.
All right. Thank you. Now, this is the part of the format where we're going to allow each of you to ask the other a question and then have time to respond. So we will start with candidate Gary Schubert. And if you would please briefly ask your opponent one question about his campaign or his position on an issue or statement that he has made. And this will be, we'll give you a chance to ask the question, and then, Mr. Weber, you'll have 3 minutes to answer your opponent and his question. So, Mr. Schubert, ask away.
Okay. Well, Brad, I think they'd like us to fuss with each other and argue a little bit, but I want to try to keep this. I apologize up front if I strike a nerve, but I want to keep this. I promised myself, and when I started this campaign, that I was going to conduct myself as a gentleman, so I'm going to do my best.
Me too.
But I don't have any material other than what was in the paper the other day when you made the announcement. And you said that you were passionate about our county and the finances. You were passionate about the experience that you could bring to the office. And just now you said that you're passionate about public safety and the catch and release criminal situation. So my question would just be, how and what, as a county commissioner, are you going to do to accomplish that?
A lot of it's going to be to find out what my limits are when I get there. I have no doubt that there'll be some things I'll get into. I'll probably get my hand slapped, but I still want to get into it and look for solutions. I'm a fixer by nature. God made me that way, and so I like to search out solutions and try to figure things out. Of course, it will have to be through cooperation and agreement with the rest of the commissioners, and that's what I look forward to. Is we've got some incredible people on the commission right now, and I think they'll be great to work with and great to make progress with.
All right. Thank you very much. Are you satisfied with that answer, Mr. Schubert?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we'll reverse the situation, and candidate Brad Weber, you'll have a chance to briefly ask Mr. Schubert a question about his campaign or his position on an issue or a statement that he has made, and then Mr. Schubert, you'll have 3 minutes to answer your opponent. So what is your question, Mr. Weber?
I'm going to decline to ask that question because Mr. Schubert is an accomplished man, and he represents himself well, and I think he speaks for himself and represents himself well.
All right, I'll take that, and then I'll also take the liberty of asking you each a question that is a bit of a follow-up on the heels of what both of you said. And that is, I know that you look forward to working with the other commissioners on the panel and working with the people within Lea County to try to work together. What happens when you get opposition, when you don't agree with some of the other people with whom you're working on the panel, on the commission? And I'll go ahead and start again with Mr. Schubert and ask you to answer that. What happens when it doesn't go smoothly and you get opposition from the people with whom you're working?
Well, thank you, Dawn. As I mentioned, I served on the county commission for 8 years, from 2003 to 2011. And for the last 4 years, I was chairman. And I told the other commissioners that I didn't expect us to always agree. But as long as they were thinking for themselves and I knew everyone's heart was in the right place. They were all doing what they thought was best. And so as long as they're taking that position from the heart and they thought it was the right thing, I would never have a problem with that, even if it was an opposing view.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Schubert. Mr. Weber, the same question.
Opposing views are sometimes just great opportunities to learn something. It's one of the things I like to say when I'm not agreeing with somebody is change my mind. Convince me otherwise, and because I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try to convince you of why I think my opinion is what it is. My mind can be changed when reasoned with. I'm a very reasonable guy, and I always feel like I bring the voice of reason. So I have no doubts in my mind, knowing pretty much all the ones on commission right now, that there won't be any harshness. There won't be any. It's things we can work out. There's always a solution to work it out.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. And now, if you'll answer the question, after being elected, how important are party politics to you in how you perform as a commissioner? And why are party politics, important, or why not? We'll start with Mr. Schubert.
Well, party politics don't mean a thing to me. We have to enlist in a party to follow in the structure of an election. But after someone gets elected, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected as the Lea County Commissioner, I become a lobbyist for Lea County. And what I'm looking for or trying to achieve is what's best for Lea County. And I don't care if I have to work with a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, whatever. And there will be some of that because the people in the state offices are a mixture of all different parties. And as county commissioner, you have to work with those people. But at that point in time, you're just a representative from Lea County trying to achieve what's best for Lea County and get the most that you can for Lea County. And in my opinion, party politics don't enter into it.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Same question to you, Mr. Weber. After being elected, how important are party politics to you at the county level and how you perform as a commissioner?
Well, this is where I agree with Mr. Schubert. That's party politics don't dictate how I would perform as a commissioner. I mean, the roads and trash and volunteer fire departments, public safety, environmental services, all these things, the infrastructure here is for everyone, and regardless of their party. So, as a commissioner, you're a representative of for the county here. It's you're working for the people. And now, while I do stand on my Republican values, to be physically conservative, fight for family values. I raised my family here, and I love the conservative views that live here in Lea County with us. And but we'll leave the party fighting for the state guys. And but I do believe in this self-reliance and freedom that these things are very dear to me.
All right. Thank you, sir. And one more time, we will have the wrap-up and give you each a chance to make a direct appeal to voters and to constituents and tell us why you are the best Republican for the job. And we'll start with candidate Gary Schubert.
Thank you. As I've mentioned, I've served on various boards, committees, leadership positions, hospital board, junior college board, commissioner in the past. I think I've got experience in leadership that I can bring to the table. I talked about my program of work and the things that I was interested in and would like to achieve if I'm so lucky as to get elected. And I believe I have the experience and the leadership qualities to speak with the medical community, to speak with the leadership of the EDC, to speak with a potential economic development client, a potential economic development prospect. I've worked with IRBs. I've been through the process of soliciting clients and businesses to come to town. I do it every day. So I believe I can bring that to the table, and that's why I feel like I'm the best candidate for the job.
All right. Thank you very much. Gary Schubert, candidate for Lea County Commission District 2. And now we will ask Mr. Weber the same thing. If you would like to make a direct appeal to voters and tell us why you are the best Republican for the job, sir.
I think I'm the best one for the job because of my passion for it. I love serving. I love serving people. Like I said, I've got some skills as a fixer. I've got some skills of working things out, figuring things out, and and when I can do that and help people, it's the most incredible feeling of accomplishment in me. And I believe that God made me this way, and so that I could serve this way. And oh gosh, you know, it's hard to express how much passion I have for this county. I've been involved on a lot of committees and some boards, and you know, the fair board, probably one of the hardest jobs I ever had, but one of the funnest jobs I ever had. And but I really did. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the opportunities to work with people and work out these issues. And that's the reason I think I'm the best for this job. Thank
All
you.
right. So I'm sorry, did I cut you off a little?
No,
Okay.
thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. All right. Thank you both. And thank you very much for watching and listening. We appreciate the participation. Again, we want to say thank you very much to our New Mexico Representative, Legislative District 61, Randy Pettigrew, and our New Mexico Representative, District 62, Larry Scott, for being here, for starting off the program, and they're part of this candidate forum tonight. Very much appreciate your participation. We thank you for the work you do, and good luck in your races. And then would like to say thank you very much to our candidates, Gary Schubert and Brad Weber, here in front of us. Thank you for taking part, for using your time tonight, and for being with us. And we thank you very much and say good luck in your race.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And thank you very much. I'd finally like to say, remember, thank you for paying attention, for listening, for following the candidates, for also looking ahead at the June 7th primary, urging you to find out more about voting, about same-day voter and voting as far as same-day registration and voting, early and absentee voting, both continuing as we do this event tonight. So if you have any questions about voting, then please get into contact with the Lea County Clerk, Keith Manus, or his office and staff. And, of course, continue to listen. We will try to keep you informed with our news and public service products on the Walmart broadcasting stations, our family here in Hobbs. Thank you very much to the families and the people who came along with the candidates and were here and very patient this evening. We appreciate your presence and your support of the candidates. And thank you very much to TJ Miracle and to our staff at New Walmart, our management and our boss, Aaron Forrester. We thank everyone for their support and their participation, and we thank you in advance of the June primary for your vote. And we will also be back before the November general election with another candidate forum. So thank you again for your time. We hope that you enjoyed the information presented, and we thank you. Good night.